So people have been asking just how easy it is to build a folio from scratch. So this whole video is going to walk us through that entire process where I'm going to build a program basically from start to finish over the course of, let's see how long it's going to take. So let's jump in. I have some sample meeting specs, and I'm going to be sharing my screen as if I'm just receiving these initial orders. And then we'll build on to this scenario as we go through to simulate the planning process as we go. So let's pretend I'm using Slack, and we just got a request for an upcoming event from October 28th and October 29th with a move-in date of the 26th through the 27th. And this is going to be happening in DC at the Ronald Reagan Convention Center. And we have our contracted spaces here. So definitely enough to start to build from. So where do we jump in? I typically like to use a screen that's large enough to do kind of multiple windows at once. So that's what I'm simulating here. And I'm going to go to Pholeo.io and log into my account. And we'll build this under my project demos for all intents and purposes. I'm going to click create up at the top here. Now, if you're thinking like, hey, it's a little hard to see on the screen, you always have the ability to zoom in your browser and everything scales pretty naturally as you're seeing here. So the bigger you want to go, the more comfortable it gets. Let's just, for building purposes, create this a little bit larger so you can see what I'm building as I go. I'm going to create a folio, and from in here, I'm going to use our event builder. Now, I recommend using the event builder because it predefines some parameters of the event in the folio as you're building it out, even if it might not have all of the venue details and the spaces and menus that you're looking for. So let's create with the event builder and see what it does as we walk through this build. So I'm taken to our event builder input fields here, and I'm going to type this as demo conference October. And don't worry, any of the information that you're filling out here has the ability, you can go back and edit as you go. If you wanted to create a new project, you can do that here. Remember, those projects are ways that you can organize different folios. So if this is an annual conference, you can create that new project that says it's going to be the annual project name, and you can have those recurring folios year over year nested below them. In this instance, I'm going to nest this under demos, and we have that start and end date. And here's where we start to get into our move in and move out dates. So this is actually going to have a move in date of the 26th of October, which is going to be on that Sunday. And we're going to have an end date of the 29th for the program, but let's say we're going to be out of the facility by the 30th. So I'm going to choose the 30th here. What I'm actually doing behind the scenes here is building out lists within the folio that have the start date already identified, which we'll see in just a second. Now, if it's a venue that we have built into the Folio database, you'll be able to choose that directly from here. So let's just scroll through and make sure that the Ronald Reagan Convention Center is not in here. It's not, which is a bummer, but not the end of the world. We always have the ability to submit a request to the venue. And here you can put in the venue name that you're planning for, your venue contact, and the contact info. And we'll actually reach out on your behalf. You're authorizing us to do so by clicking on that button there. And this is how we are intending on growing our venue database over time. So we're just going to skip this step for now. And it's going to not take us to any of the available spaces or available menus on hand for those. But if it was a venue that we had in our database, you would be able to pre-populate with the locations and potentially even pre-populate with your entire catering menu from that property within a few clicks of a button. But still using this because I am at least creating that baseline of some of the lists. So we are going to create the folio, and it's going to take us right into our Kanban view. Just an update, in a few months' time, Kanban is going to be renamed production because this is where the production happens. So don't get too attached to the Kanban view, but you're seeing here that we have resources, key dates, and then we have a list for each of those days of the program from move in to move out already pre-populated for us. So we don't have to worry too much about creating individual lists as we go. There's this shell to start to take a look from. Now we also have the event wizard, item wizard in here that if we click on this, it'll start to take you through those step-by-step guides of building your first services, which we might come back to, but I'm going to exit this wizard for now. Let's take a look at some of the locations and start to build out the framework for this event. So we are seeing over here in Slack that we have all of these available locations, right? So I'm actually going to do a couple things here. I'm going to create a new list that is going to be for locations or spaces. And let's drag that over a little bit here. Scrolling left to right on my mouse. And this is another kind of quick hack that if I zoom out all the way, the more lists that I fit in, the easier it is to drag and drop lists all the way to the front. So that we'll put in here next to key dates. And let's see here. There we go. And then I'll zoom back in for you. And let's just start to itemize these because we might get some details on where to go from here. So amphitheater, atrium, and these mean nothing to us right now. And we'll start to fill in that information behind the scenes. Now, I'm just going to use a couple for sample purposes here. Uh, because I don't know exactly if we're going to need all of these spaces. So I don't want to do work that like doesn't really pertain to us, but I'm going to illustrate how these will come back in here. What I'm not going to skimp on is actually going into my 3 dots menu here, which is going to be the additional options behind the scenes. And I'm going to look at my available locations. And here is actually where I want to build in all of these locations, one for one, top to bottom. And as I build this here, you're seeing that we have the ability to also denote like location details and capacities here. Right now, this is just a great reference point, but we're hoping to build in the future the ability to activate like space allocation and have that roll up into a grid. So you can kind of identify how you're using the spaces and see if any of your guarantees kind of go over those spaces. But for right now, this is just a quick reference point based on your contract of what those spaces are. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, this looks like a lot of manual update, we're actually working smarter, not harder in here because we are in creating these locations, filling out where we can apply items and services to any of these locations as well. So what might take a minute or two on the onset is actually going to save us a lot of time in the long run. And I'm just kind of going from top to bottom here, switching between my mouse and my screen and my keyboard here to create these locations. This feels very like Bob Ross. So happy locations. And I don't want to necessarily speed this up because I want to give you the ability to see just how long a build will take from beginning to end. And yes, like we have a fair amount of locations over here, but I can work a little bit quicker here as well. So continental, hey, we know is going to be continental B as well. Now I'm just copy and pasting and continental C. And these are pretty easy to create here. And if you prefer copying and pasting, you can always go this route too. It might be a little bit quicker and you don't have to type everything out. Depends on your process, depends on your preference, but you're seeing how quickly these locations are taking shape. And again, we're creating that full pick list as we go through here to be able to get those, recall those locations at any time. You're going to see that there's a bit of a build to the onset, but once we get this information in here, things start to pick up speed as we go. So in 30 minutes on the onset, to be able to come back to this at any time is going to be worth a little bit of the lift. Now, keep in mind you have the ability in any of these divisible spaces. So this meridian example might be one of those where we might have something that applies to all, or we might just have something that applies to uh, meridian A, B, or C, or there might be some air walls that can divide the space further where you can get a combination of like CD or something like that. If that is the case, then we always have the ability to create a new location or come back to any of these locations and delete them once you've created them in this locations database. So don't worry too much about committing or being perfect in here because you can always add or subtract as you go through. So I'm making my way. I have a few more here, and we're almost done with all of these locations. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why did I create the items and now I'm inputting all of these locations here? Well, I'm going to show you what to do with those items based on some of the meeting planner specs that are available on the convention website. So a great resource for everyone to pull from, especially when you're new to a property to get yourself grounded in the overall layout, is going to be the website for the convention center or the hotel, specifically if they have a meeting planner area or guide. So let's go into just a Google search here, and I'm going to search Ronald Reagan International Trade Center. And right here, we see that there's a link for their event center. Now, this might be a hot link that we want to come back to. So I'm going to go scroll over to my resources here and create a quick link section. And we're going to name this venue, and we'll put in RRBITC as a quick acronym here. And in this item, so we're now taking a look at, we've created an item and we're clicking an item level details here. We have a lot of different functionality that we'll get into over on the side here. And we have this description box. And this is a great way to create hyperlinks, create notes for ongoing meetings about these items that you're discussing. And really we can customize this to be whatever we want it to be. So for this, I'm going to call this RRBITC event spaces, and we can hyperlink just like we are in an email here. And believe you me, I think this is annoying too, but right now the editor does not save the blue and the hyperlink when you just hyperlink something. The hyperlink is there, you can click on it. I think it's annoying too, but I turn it quickly blue and underline it so that it's very clear that this is a hyperlink like you would an email. It'll be something that we for sure will get to updating as time permits. But for right now, we are starting to build that quick links. You can create that header. So you may have not seen behind the scenes, but I used a heading text here, and we'll use a H2 quick links. And if you wanted to, you could create bullets, but I find that the H3 and just underlining them creates for a really clean interface. So now let's go back to some of these spaces. The amphitheater, hey, lo and behold, is one of these that they have an entire page dedicated towards. So guess what I'm going to do? Over here in my amphitheater, I'm going to create that hot quick links section as well. And we will do amphitheater. It's not a word you type every day. And we'll hyperlink that to that page. And we'll make it blue. Do a quick underline. So we have that here, but we're going to take this a step further. I'm actually just going to do a screenshot over here of what the layout of this is, and we'll add that as a cover image. And this starts to build that visual representation of your program real quick. So once we drop this, and I just dragged and dropped from my downloads, which is where my screenshots go. I clicked on the cover image and I uploaded it there. This will start to appear as that cover image right here, and you can actually click into this image and it will scale to the size of your browser window pretty easily. This gives you a quick reference point on what's in there. Now, all of this can be copy and pasted as well, except it looks like this is actually going to be an image that they have embedded on here. So let's see if we can just print this as a PDF. As a quick reference, let's see what shows up here. Not the best formatting, but we can make it work, right? We might not need the pictures at the top. So actually what I'm going to do is save this as a PDF. And if I'm using a Mac, I can open up that PDF real quick and do some manipulation. This is one of the best kept secrets on Macs, in my opinion, is from any of the preview editor. I can just delete that. And now I just have the page that is important to me. And actually, if we do a markup, sometimes this actually allows us to copy if it notices that it's text. But not so much here. Totally fine. Let's save this. And we can attach that directly to this item as well. So if it's going to be one of those spaces that you know you're going to want a quick reference back to, this is a great way to, instead of having to click in and click in and click in, we now have a quick link to this attachment that gives us the amphitheater size, the stage size, and other features at a click of a button here directly to this item. So again, I want to show you just how quickly it is to do this for a few of these sections. So here is a different page layout. This actually has space specifications as a PDF here, so even easier to download. I'm just going to upload this entire atrium. So especially if you're managing the space and you haven't worked in this venue before, you can easily and quickly create these reference points for yourself to see exactly what the space is all about. Quick screenshot, cover page, quick links. There we go. And again, we're building those resources so we can create efficiency in the process as we go. And this is one of those areas that, again, takes a tiny bit of time on the onset, but we're only a couple minutes in, and we've already started to rough out all of our locations, and we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of these specs pretty quickly. What's nice about doing this from a planner's perspective is uh, you also are onboarding yourself with this venue and all of the meeting spaces, so you can look like a pro in front of your client, right? What do you mean you know everything there is to know about the atrium? And if you wanted to, you could pull up those specs in a quick click of a button. So here's that atrium specs. We'll hyperlink that there. I got really passionate about talking there and I stopped thinking. Sometimes this is like the Food Network where you have to do two things at once. And sometimes I'm pretty good, sometimes I'm not. If any of these pictures are relevant, you could snap these and attach those as well. And this looks like they have different configurations here. So you can see actually that configuration in the atrium as well. So maybe the theater style works for you or classroom style works for you. All of those are available on their website. Pretty cool. Let's take a look and build out one more of these just to show you what that full picture looks like. And then we'll dive into some specs here. So let's go events, bases is where we were. And atrium ballroom looks to be the nice next one here. And same thing, let's do some quick links at the top here. Atrium ballroom specs and an H3 and quick title. Ooh, that was an outline. I want blue and underline. Undo is what I just did on the keyboard, and a Control Z works in this as well, which comes in handy from time to time. And save. And this one also has some space specs in here. These blueprint floor plans are kind of giving me a bit of blue screen of death, but we won't talk about that. Part of the Folio color scheme was because I wanted to like impart a sense of calmness with our planners. You know, the opposite of blue screen of death. But alas, we don't control the branding of everything. Here's the ballroom. Here's that. We have the covers page, and already it's starting to take shape. Just because I don't want to leave us empty-handed, let's see if that atrium gallery exists in here as well. Atrium hall, atrium gallery does not appear here. And this would be one of those areas where, like, if we reached out and had to collect these assets from someone, we might build that in here so you don't have to look around in your email to find uh, this floor plan or this detail that only got emailed over to you. I'm going to change this just for the sake of moving this ahead to Atrium Hall. And let's actually take a look at our locations while we're in here to see if Atrium Hall atrium hall, atrium gallery does exist in here from our available spaces. So it might just be a smaller room. I don't see a gallery identified here. I would think that they would be close to one another, but maybe something that we would be able to pose to our venue contact, which that's a good segue. We'll get into that in just a second. So here we're taking and adding that cover image one more time and quick links. And this is going to be atrium all specs. And I just went about this a different way to show you that I do have the ability to adjust these header formats in here pretty quickly. Save that guy, blue and underline. Here we go. And I'm going to download this atrium hall spec and attach that file here. So imagine you're on a call with a client and they're like, I have no idea anything about atrium hall. Can you share what it's being used for? Just look at how quickly it is to say in my filters here, yep, I got you. Here's Atrium Hall. Here's kind of what it looks like. So you remember on our site visit, we were walking, down this foyer, and so, location was over here, and you actually, pulled off to use the restrooms, and then right here is that Atrium Hall, right? How much can it hold? Let's just jump right in here. I don't have to navigate away. I don't have to go to my space allocation grid. I don't have to go to my visual blueprint. It's all right here, and I was able to filter into it with a few clicks of a button. So super powerful to be on a client call, sharing your screen like I'm doing here, and it has all of those details at a click of a finger. So back to that venue contact, right? I'm going to create an item in here in our resources called venue contacts, and same rule applies here. I have the ability to say my catering manager, name, position, and phone number. And as soon as I put that information in there, actually from my mobile device, I can click on that phone number here. And I am also creating this inventory of team members for my entire team on site so that all of those contacts, as I'm building them through my planning experience, are also building themselves right into our resources here as well, right? Contract is another one of those things that you can quickly and easily attach as a file here. So say we got a hold of that final contract and we want to be able to reference back to that as we go through. I can actually copy and paste directly from the contract and put it in the description in here. And we can isolate that like our F&B minimum is going to be maybe $1.2 million. And this is always staring at me in the face here. So I know what I'm kind of tracking towards as we start to build out our services and build our budget around this. And if we needed any of those contracted dates, so let's say initial F&B specs are going to be due on, let's say we're moving on site on the 16th, so it's generally going to be about 4 weeks before. We'll say on September 11th, right? This due date actually appears on the card level here, and then initial space specs due directly coming from the contract might be done on the same date. Because I chose that date before, it predictably goes back to that date, which is nice in the calendar view. Final guarantees are going to be maybe due 2 weeks before. So we're on the September 11th. We're moving on site on the 16th. So it's going to be like October 2nd. Quick, easy visuals to make those key dates jump out. Guarantee before additional charges incurred might be another date. I don't have a text character limit on these item levels, so I can make these pretty hardy if I want to in length. And that's going to be, if we're moving on the 16th, let's say on the 6th is our last day to add anything before we incur a 20%. And I might note that here, 20% on all services after this date, all F&B after this date. And right here, again, within the first three lists, I have my building resources that are always a click of a button away. I can add more and more quick links in here. I have all of the key dates that have come directly from the contract. The contract is a click of a button away. I have my venue contacts if I need to get a hold of anyone. And then I start to get into the details of those spaces here. So let's say that this amphitheater is going to be used for general session. I can actually build that on here. And we start to identify what the use spaces are for these locations as well. Now, keep in mind, because I've built in all of those locations, I have those already available to me in the details and in my locations. So if I wanted to choose this as the amphitheater, I can start to identify that. And as soon as I start to say we get access to this space on October 16th, oh, I went backwards a date, October 26th. I just realized that some of my key dates are probably correct based on a move-in date of the 26th, but we'll go with it. That's fine. And then say we lose this access to the space on the show day, which is going to be October 29th. And we have a start and an end time here. So say we get access to that space at 12 a.m. and we lose access to that space at 5 p.m. We're now starting to kind of build that agenda as we go through, and this is going to tell us that we get the amphitheater, we're using it for general session, and we have that space from 12 a.m. to 5 p.m. Between the dates of the 26th and the 29th. Now you might be saying like, where else would that be useful? Well, maybe in like a production schedule. And as I'm building the item details here, I'm also building the item details here. So this is going to be our general our agenda module, and this has that date here, and this is going to be that 12 to 5 p.m. with a 3-day difference, and this is going to be our location, and we're starting to see already some of the shell of this start to build itself in real time here. Now, let's go back to our Kanban view and do some more building so we can make that agenda start to take shape. Let's say we need some office services starting on Sunday, October 26th. This is where we can start to really create some power within Pholeo for efficiency. So I'm going to exit out of some of our details here. We've put in all of our contracts. If I need to come back to any of that information at any time, it's always a click of a button away. And now I'm going to pull up this menu that was shared with me. So I'm just going to do a quick download here. And let's go over here. And now we have this properties menu, which is nice to have from top to bottom. And there's always going to be a lot of superfluous information in here. I really respect our executive chefs. They do beautiful work at all of our properties. It's great to know about them. It's great to have their experience on board. And then what we really need is the actual meat and potatoes, sometimes literally the meat and potatoes of the menu. And that starts to take a look at like this, right? So let's take a thumb through of this menu and see what's important for us to start to take a look at. The one thing that I always like to scroll, and sometimes in these menus it's towards the bottom and the back, are this section right here. So guarantees, we're going to build into our resources here, F&B, guarantees. And I like tax, service charge, labor, service times. I like to extract this information out from top to bottom so that it's always staring me in the face as well. And lo and behold, just a simple copy and paste. We now have this extracted, doing a tiny bit of formatting, nothing too much here. And this page, now instead of on page 53 of this PDF attachment, is actually going to be broken out right here. Maybe you need a few of these items. This is guarantees, tax, labor. Why am I naming them that way? Why am I separating them out this way? Because in essence, I'm creating tags as I go. Meals and special services. And do I need damage and loss? Probably not. So let's just go with those there. I'm going to go with this column. And with PDFs, it's always kind of a pain in the butt if they have done something in 2 columns here to extract it out. But guess what? It takes 2 seconds to pull out damages and loss from the appropriate sections. This is already denoting dietary. That might be another keyword that we want to reference back to. And this outdoor equipment, special services. Yep, great. So in this quick guide, they have also informed us that they note for gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, vegetarian, and vegan, and that the kitchen environment is not a nut-free environment. Now, when I'm on a call with a client and they are saying, how is the venue going to be labeling for dietary? Well, I don't have to remember any of that information, nor do I have to really look it up because all I need to do in my Pholeo is search the key term dietary, click in here, and lo and behold, I can copy and paste this into a Slack message. It is always a click of a button away, right? So I'm building yet another resource that is extracted out of a 60-page document that is easy to reference back to. Now, let's go back to taxes and service charges. When we are working with a venue, it is pretty typical for us to say that they are going to have a tax and they are going to have some sort of service charge. And sometimes that service charge is taxed, and sometimes it's a portion of it is taxed. So it's always best practice to confirm with your venue. And the way that we like to ensure that we are correct is ask for a sample banquet check that itemizes out the taxes and service charges so that we can see exactly how they are calculating it, and we can build that into our specs one for one. So let's go into taxes and service charges here, and I'm going to click on my 3 dots again, and I'm going to load in a category. Now, what is a category? Well, by default, any products and service items that we are including, which become the building block of our specs, give us a pass-through, a category, which applies non-taxed, taxed service charges, non-taxed and taxed admins, and the tax rate itself. Now, if you're just doing one single work stream, you might not have to worry about a bunch of categories, but the default is going to be set to 0, and we have the ability to create as many supplier categories as we want. So in this example, we're just kind of managing food and beverage, but if you're managing AV and food and beverage, or AV, food and beverage, and decor, any external vendor, you can create that category and come up with these taxes and service charges specifically for those categories. So in this instance, I'm going to call this the RRBITC FNP. And actually, there might be a few, so I'm going to reverse this just so that all of my food and beverage categories always align with one another. And kindly note that the service charges are taxable. I'm going to assume, but I'm going to confirm as I'm working through this that the service charge is going to be taxed. So I'm going to put in a 25% there. And the tax in Washington, D.C. is 10%. Now, because I'm just managing food and beverage, I'm going to do the same thing to my default. So in case I make a mistake along the way and do not assign the appropriate category to an item, it is still going to be taxed appropriately, and I'm not going to adjust my budget here. So this is just kind of a fail-safe measure for me as we're building. Now, that's great and all, but what did I just do? Well, let's start to take a look at menu template. So as I'm building, I'm also working smarter, not harder. I'm going to create a list that is for templates. And let's say I want to build my base template as offices, right? So in this office set, office, let's call this office basic. So especially in a multi-day meeting, we're probably doing beverage setups a few different places, a few different areas. So now that I have that category programmed in, I'm going to find some of my a la carte menu items here. It's not going to be in lunch, typically after breakfast, break service. Yeah, that's good to know. Individual, we're getting closer, and infused water station. iced coffee, iced tea, and where is my hot tea? Ooh, 1 hour service, all day service. Looks like the route that they're going versus by the gallon or a la carte prices. But they do have, right here, that lovely $87 per gallon for our regular and decaf coffee. Probably the most commonly used item across any Pholeo. So I'm going to create a product and service. Because nothing exists in my inventory, I'm going to build my inventory as we go. Create a new product and service. My default category is taxed appropriately, but this is going to be in our food and beverage, and this is going to be regular coffee, gallon, and this is going to be $87. And right here, I'm going to say that this is going to be a base. We're going to start our basic office with 5 gallons of regular coffee. And I'm going to now build in another item here called decaf coffee. And it's going to be $87 as well. And we'll say they get 1 gallon of decaf as a basic office set. And then I don't see hot teas on here. Let's see if it's broken out. But generally speaking, we're looking for some hot tea items as well. Assorted teas are in here, so we'll assume that they're charging $87 for hot tea as well. Does not exist. Create a new product, service, hot tea. We do have some assorted teas. Is there a description in here? Nope, no worries. Here we are, assorted hot teas at 87 as well. And we'll start them with a gallon of that as well. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is that there's a subtotal pre-tax, and then there's a post plus plus. So we have the 837.38, and we've now spec'd out coffee, decaf, hot tea. And generally speaking, for that basic office, we're also going to build in some sodas. So let's see if we can find the a la carte pricing for soda somewhere in here. Enhancements, soft drinks, soda. Ooh, we're close to the right area. I would venture to say it's going to be around $9. Let's see if I can find it up in our a la carte. I would be very surprised if they don't have sodas on their menu. I'm going to laugh when I've passed it like 14 times. Lemonade is 48, infused water, iced coffee, iced tea, unlimited cold beverage. Continuous service for 8 hours with unlimited sodas, still waters, bottles. I'm going to go out on a whim here and say that it's $9 per person. But I'm going to leave myself a note in the title here as I create it so that it's staring at me in the face as I come back to this. So we are going to do soft drinks, sodas. I'm putting them both in here because depending on which venue I'm working with, some venues call it different things. So this way, when I'm looking back for that item, I don't have to worry about which one. They're both in the title, so it's easily searchable. We'll call that $9. Generally, I do soft drinks a la carte at a consumption quantity, something to confirm with our venue as well, but we'll call that 25 of these assorted soft drinks to get them going as well. I forgot that I wanted to note that soft drink total. So I'm going to go into my 3 dots menu and go into products and services. And right here we have that sodas and soft drinks. And I'm going to leave that note for myself, confirm a la carte pricing. And now this is staring at me. And as soon as I confirm that it's $9, I can come back in here and remove that note. But now anywhere that there are sodas that appear, it's going to be staring at me in the face that I need to confirm that pricing. So here is that basic office set. Say we're going to add in some granola bars or something to this as well. I just saw these here. Let's build a few more items, create new product and service. We're adding it here. This is individual bags of trail mix. And this is going to be gluten-free and vegan or vegetarian, gluten-free and vegetarian in my description. And this is going to be $6 a bag. It's going to be taxed and service charged. We are building in individual bags of pretzels and chips as well. Quickly just building my menu here. And this is $5 each. And as I build, I'm creating that inventory. And once I build it once, I never have to build it ever again for any of the services that I'm going to build for this program. It's a build once, recall as many times as you want. And that is where we start to save tons of time. I'm going to stay away from perishables for right now for these general offices, but we might get into some of these custom items here. But let's say bags of trail mix and bags of chips. We'll do 12 of each of those to start for this basic office set. So we have a good basic office. Now let's start to make work fast. This is going to be agency office. I'm going to create one of these for each day. I am creating that shell of the item by doing this. I'm going to show you this way. I'm going to show you another way. Agency office. Oops, I misnamed that one. Not to worry. I've renamed it now. Agency office. Right? So let's add that basic office set to all of the agency office. Now, do I have to do it by an item at a time? Nope. I can copy products and services from Office. We have the Office Basic pop up here. And guess what? I'm now adding all of those items down the row to all of my offices with a few clicks of a button. Instead of doing tabs and tabs of spreadsheets and rows of formulas, I don't have to worry about the price. I don't have to worry about my math not mathing. I can just work from left to right and build out these offices. And then if I don't want to click into all of those details, I can go over to my agenda. I can filter by agency. I'm now looking at these, and we're going to put in this location. Let's say that the agency office is going to be in Polaris C, and that we'll come back to our budget area in just a second. This is going to be that first day, which is the 26th. Yep. So I'm just scrolling kind of left to right. This is where I also like to work from a big screen. And this is where a little bit of zoom out can help us as well, because I can start to take a look at more information. And we start to click on our start and end date. We have to scroll once, but we will be able to come back pretty quickly. This is going to be from, let's say, 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. each day. We're expecting about 25 people. And now I can just quickly spec out all of these for each of these days. And this is the fill in the blanks game that I love to play as well, because at the same time, I'm building my production schedule. So I don't have to worry about coming back to this information and doing another spreadsheet of this information. It's all built right in as we go. And it's okay if we make an error, because we can always come back to it and update, and it's always going to be looking at us in the same place, the same way for any program that you're building in Pholeo, for you to be able to start to spec with consistency as well. So if you are wrapping your head around this program as I'm building along, then you are basically wrapping your head around any program that you're going to be using Pholeo for, which is part of that scalability factor that we like to promote as well, is that you learn once, you apply it in the same way in the same manner to any Folio moving forward. No worrying about having to wrap your head around so-and-so's custom spreadsheet that they've spent years and years customizing. This is the same way each and every time. And once you start to crack some of these efficiencies, like you're seeing me whip through here, it just becomes a game of fill in the blanks and create awesome events. So we have all of our agency offices here. We have these for each of these days. We have expected for 25, and now we're starting to build this budget area here. So let's build some of that budget infrastructure in our event as well. Say all of our agency offices are going to go into a budget area called staff, crew, and production. So I'm going to click on budget area and I'm going to build in staff, crew, production, maybe ambassadors, depending on the size of your program. And in this budget area, I want to nest under this staff offices. And that budget area is going to be staff, crew, production. And now I have that staff office drop down here. Now I can build out more as I go. I'm going to do one more example of agency attendee experiences here in just a second. But let's say all of these agency offices are going to go to that budget area and cost center. I now have the ability to see that we have some blanks in here. I'm going to click on my budget area, staff, crew, and production, and staff offices. Click save. And we're going to apply that to each of these. And what I'm actually doing is building that budget cost center and that budget area and associating these items that we've built in here in this $1,300 per day that we've spec'd out, which is our inclusive price, which is taxed and service charged appropriately. It's always going to be linked to this cost center. So I don't have to worry about formulas not rolling up to my big picture budget. This $6,000 is always going to be nested based on these services right to this staff office line here. So when we are looking at how our budget is shaping up and how we are tracking to that $1.2 million minimum, we're seeing these itemized costs and these budget areas and cost centers work in tandem to give the client the picture of where they're spending their money, where our biggest spends are, and we can roll down here. We're seeing a visualization of that, of here's staff, crew, and production ambassadors, and we can start to watch our visualizations take shape in real time. So really, this is the only interface that the end client, the primary stakeholder, should be able to be needing to see, and you can always drill down a layer deeper as you are building out your specs. Now, I showed you that way of using the copy product and services from another item from our template here, but let's say we're going to have a client office that basically has the same exact thing. Well, we can also duplicate items, and we will call this client office. We can delete the copy here, which will come automatically, and we're going to apply this same item with all of the now same product details directly to here. So now all we need to do is update our location and our date and time. If we're cloning from day and it's going to be the same exact time, you don't even have to do that. We're just going to clone from the same day. Maybe they're going to be in Polaris B instead of Polaris C. So I just need to update that title. And then let's create a new cost center here called staff offices. Actually, this would probably be allocated to staff office as well, so we don't even need to worry about that. So let's just duplicate everyday client office. And it's going to be the same list, Monday for Monday, Tuesday for Tuesday, so on and so forth. And same thing here. And we don't have to worry about the specs being related to one another. Every time we clone an item, it is a completely independent thing, not dependent on any other information. So if I update a quantity here, I'm not going to update a quantity anywhere else. So I am just speccing like for like, saving a ton of time compared to what you would have to do in a spreadsheet to clone these items. Oops, I just cloned it to the wrong day, right? Not to worry. I drag and drop it over here, and all I need to do is update that time, 29, 29, 28, 28, all good. Back in action. I get the quick details here. Don't have to worry about a thing, right? Let's say our Thursday, everyone's going to be out of the venue by noon because we lose the space, right? So I'm just going to quickly update these from 6:30 until 12 p.m. and 6:30 until 12 p.m. What am I doing at the same time? Updating my production schedule, right? I might want to drop some of the quantities here. So let's call this 3 1-in-1 and 12 sodas and 6 bags. We're basically not going to have much of anyone on site here. We'll call this 3, 12, and 6 and 6. Good to go. Now, let's talk about labels. So say I'm ready to batch all of this over to my venue. I'm going to go into my agenda and I'm actually going to create a few production labels. Now I like to think of labels as where we are at in the process. So let's take a look at creating a new label here and let's call orange pending, meaning that we are still speccing this. It's still not completely done yet. Let's create a new label that is green for ready for processing. And this is what I'm going to do to send those specs over to the venue to process these. Let's call one that is BEO received. We'll call it purple, BEO received. If you're doing multiple work streams, you can call this spec received, right? Let's call one other label BEO reviewed, BEO specs reviewed. And let's call the last one BEO attached. Now we have all of these labels created, and let's say I'm going to quickly move all of our agency offices into ready for processing. What am I doing? Well, I'm creating the ability to start to note production processes within my different areas that I'm creating. So now we have that ready for processing label staring at us in the face, and this becomes another powerful filter that's built right into the system. And I have the ability to filter by ready for processing. I can apply agency to this as well. So if you had multiple work streams that are ready for processing, you can put in agency here. We're not going to see a change because it's everything that is ready for processing. And I can print these 5 items. I can put a custom logo in here that appears on all of my prints. And this is a function sheet directly from Pholeo that gives us the ability to see all of those specs from top to bottom in an easy to see PDF format in which if you're going to receive a BEO that looks like this, every venue can build their BEOs from something that looks exactly like what they are giving back to us. We can save this as agency office specs submitted on 08/11, the day of this recording. I will save this and I have this in I do this all of the time. So if you're working from a Mac, if you accidentally put in a dot something, so I did .11, it thinks that the .11 is a file name, and you actually need to just update it to .pdf. And now, lo and behold, this opens as a separate PDF that is formatted. So just to call out, I had to learn that the hard way, that maybe don't end it with periods or use an underscore for 08/11 if you're putting the date on it. However, looking at this print, we We have the date that this print was generated here. We have all of those specs information, just like you would see on a BEO. And we have the itemization of the product service items along with all of the subtotals, inclusive total prices, and the descriptions that you're customizing. Now, keep in mind, any of those descriptions that you're using on those item levels also appear on the print. So if you wanted to put service details at the top of each of these that says start with 1 gallon of regular and decaf and refresh every 2 hours, that can fit right within here as well. So we've been building for a little under an hour, 45 minutes. We've already started to spec out all of our client offices. We have a template here to use as any sort of basic offices. So let's say we want to do our welcome reception on Monday for our attendee experience, and we'll start to bring this to a close for today. I'm going to create an item called attendee welcome reception. Let's say that this is going to be taking place in our atrium ballroom. This is going to need a new cost center and budget area, so I'm going to create an area called attendee. I'm going to create a cost center called attendee welcome reception. And because I've created it from the item, it automatically applies here. This is going to be on our Monday evening, October 27th. We're going to say that this kicks off at 6 p.m. and runs until 8 p.m. And we're going to be expecting about 1,500 people for this. Now I come back here from my menu that's still up. We'll start to take a look at reception. It's saying that this, very, very useful. Reception service, page, whatever this is, 20 something, 29. And I'm just going to quickly build some of these menu items. So this is going to be our goat cheese and port wine shallot confit on walnut toast. Does that sound good? Kinda. It's a good vegetarian option. We'll create a new product service. This is going to be in our F&B. Our description is going to be on walnut toast. This is going to be vegetarian. And this is going to be $4.75 a piece. Let's continue to build here. We want to pass maybe like 3 items. This is goat cheese. I don't like shooters. They always have vessels. So much cheese. Cheese. This is probably good. This is a nut-free Pholeo, like I would want that to be vegan. So much cheese. I want to stay away from shellfish. It's very polarizing. We'll do a beef filet mignon crostini. This is balsamic onion marmalade and blue cheese crumble. This is going to be nut-free. This is a $5.75 per piece item. And our category. And then here are some more friendly items. Wild mushroom quiche, vegetarian empanada. Everyone loves a good empanada. Nut-free and vegetarian with harissa hummus. Sounds delightful for a reception. This is going to be nut-free and vegetarian. And $5.25 per piece. And let's take a look over here. Can we find something vegan? VG. VG is what I'm looking for. Not a whole lot of options there. VG. Baked cauliflower and turmeric shooter. I do not want a shooter. VG. You cannot tell me you have one vegan hors d'oeuvre on your menu. But that's kind of what it's looking like, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess that is our option for vegans. That's a little sad. Ah, well, this is where a custom menu request might come in. But for now, we will use it as a placeholder. This is going to be gluten-free, nut-free, and vegan. I get it. It's probably not a whole lot of stuff going on in there, but it is more popular than ever. Let's say we're going to do 4 pieces per person. So I'm going to do 1,500 of each of these as our expected guarantee is going to come to fruition here. And I am building that attendee reception from scratch. I've already constructed my budget. I don't have to worry about my inclusive. We're good to go. Let's keep building. Let's say we're going to do a reception display. We're going to keep it a little bit light. This international street food looks pretty legit. I'm going to include all of those details here. A little copy and paste action to save time. This is $21 per person. I want to do 750 for that station. Flatbread pizza looks good. Gluten-free crusts looks like it's an option. Let's say we're going to do I'm going to cut the shrimp and leek. So I'm actually just going to strike that through so we know that it exists, but I don't want it. I'm going to put our fresh mozzarella on the gluten-free crust on gluten-free crust. I'm going to highlight this in red because it's a modification to their published menu. We can modify this in red as well. And we know we're going to hit our minimum. I'm going to copy this up here. And this is going to be $16 per person. Great. We're going to do this at a 750 count as well. And then let's do some sliders or dim sum. We have an international flair going on. Dim sliders are always a big hit, but I've done venues for scale where they like build them. I think dim sum is a little bit safer. Let's go with the dim sum route. Ooh, this PDF is going to fight me on this, so I'm going to break it up a little bit. Create new product and service. This is going to be our dim sum at $28 per person. And now we'll go back and grab these items in here. We know we're going to hit our minimum. I'm going to strike through this, and I'm going to note our nut-free and vegetarian. Our duck spring roll is nut-free. Our chive and shrimps, I want to stay away from seafood. I'm going to cut that one. Our braised beef dumpling is nut-free. We have a duck spring roll and a vegetarian spring roll. Nut-free. Can this be made vegan? Because that would be great. I'm going to put that right into my specs, highlight this red, highlight what we're striking through as red, and this is good to go at the $28 in the appropriate category at 750. Let's add a bar and call this a day. Reception, plated dinner. I saw it in here somewhere. But as you're seeing, I'm just kind of pulling what I need out of the menu, but I'm building this inventory just with a quick copy and paste, but I can recall any of that once I've plugged it in once at any times. So this is a hosted bar. It looks like our cocktail is at $12. So let's say that this is going to be a separate service because we need to build its own BEO. We have all of our details here from this. So I'm actually just going to call this food, right? And I'm going to duplicate this service to our Monday as well. And I'm going to call this one beverage. right? And way easier to delete. I'm going to keep what I need, remove what I don't. So I'm going to remove all of the food items from this. But I'm holding all of those item level details, so a little bit more efficient to do it recording, and I am happy to show you more and answer any questions.